I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championships.
The rivalries, it's up there on top of the list, man. And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you.
This week, did I tell you that? Yeah. You know, he transferred to Texas. You remembered that? I'll be damned. So he was in town and people were shooting pictures of him working out at the rec center, and he had his Ohio State gear on working out, and everybody's like, what's going on? Is he transferring back? He was just in town to get his stuff, move out of his apartment. And welcome to JUCK on Bucks on a Monday from JUCK Studios Southeast. I'm on vacation, as you can see, and I bring a lot of equipment with me when we go on vacation, carry it all in one carry-on bag, and every single time they stop me and toss the bag, which I have to pack very carefully. It's a whole big deal, and they ask me what's going on, what is this crazy looking stuff. For the first time since our hero and I have been flying around with this stuff, they did not toss my bag, so that was a big plus. So down here in Florida, Central Florida, it's not very hot right now. At the gym this morning, some little kid and his big brother walked in, probably like 14 and 12, right? And you know how it is when you're at like a resort fitness center, like the kids want to come in and screw around. It's always very annoying when you're trying to get stuff done. But this little portly 12-year-old walks up to me and sees my shirt, which I'm wearing, of course, an Ohio State shirt. I don't know about you guys, but wherever I go in the country, it's always Buckeyes every day, right? I'm wearing our colors because I want everybody to know where I'm from, and I want to rep the colors. And number two, it's always a great conversation starter, particularly if you bump into a fan of some other college, and I enjoy those conversations. So always wearing the colors. And this 12-year-old sees me with the Buckeyes shirt and walks straight up to my face, and I think he's about to give me a go Bucks. He does not. He says to me, "Go Blue," looking at me right in the eyes. And I didn't respond. I was kind of taken aback. Now, mind you, I'm in the middle of vacation, which means like when I'm on vacation, I don't eat very well. So I make myself get an extra hard workout. So I'm swole. The veins are bulging. I got my mug on, and this kid's looking at me, and he thinks I must not have heard him because I got my earbuds in. And he says it again, this time louder, "Go Blue." And I said, "I heard you the first time." And I must have said it kind of loud, but I don't know. He then said, "Well, you won the national championship." Yeah, yes, we did. And then he said, "You couldn't beat us, though." And at this point, I started laughing because, you know what? Only this rivalry. It's just great. I got a 12-year-old. I'm in the middle of Florida. He's coming up and wants to talk crap to me in the middle of the gym. And you got to love it, man. You got to love it. Anyway, Buckeyes back at practice today. And we got a different schedule this week than we had last week, and different than we will have in the upcoming weeks, because Wednesday is pro day as the Bucks try to go for the record, which would be 16 players drafted. It looks like they might be able to tie it with 15, and you never know, though. Sometimes you always think there's a couple that man, I can't believe that guy didn't get drafted. Like that seems to happen to me every year. But it would be amazing. I would absolutely love that. And this pro day is going to be so cool. We're going to get to see some footage out of that thing, and I can't wait. But apparently, folks are just now finding out that Quinshon Judkins is built like an absolute tank, as there is a couple of videos, little clip that leaked of Quinshon working out that's flying around social media, and everybody's just like besides themselves at how awesome Quinshon looks. Like if you couldn't see Quinshon was a tank in the uniform, I don't know, man, something's wrong with you. But they are finally referring to him as Ohio State running back Quinshon Judkins and not Ole Miss transfer Quinshon Judkins, which drove me nuts all year, as did Alabama transfer Caleb Downs. So I think Caleb Downs is now just officially a Buckeye, right? Been at Ohio State longer than he was at Alabama. I really can't stand when they call Julian Sayin Alabama transfer Julian Sayin. The dude was there for like a month, right? So that bothers me. Anyway, let's get into this week's schedule. Today, practice number 4. After practice today, Coach Day will speak at a press conference, and then we get to hear from Matt Patricia and Brian Hartline. We've only heard once from Matt Patricia when he first came, and now we get to hear from Patricia after a week of practice, getting to know the players more. Really interested as to how this is going to go. I hope that we get some more feedback about some of the individual players and maybe get a little more in depth as to what he's thinking about how he's going to do things. Heartline, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. What would you ask Heartline if you had a question to ask Heartline right now? I suppose somebody's going to ask him again. Has he decided if he's going to be in the box or on the field calling plays? I think he'll ultimately be in the box. Then Tuesday, that is practice number 5. After practice, you get Larry Johnson and select defensive linemen. And this one's going to be pretty interesting as well. When we heard from the running backs, we got to hear from all 4 running backs that are here right now. That means, 4 or 5. We got to hear from CJ Donaldson, Bo Jackson, Sam Williams-Dixon, James Peoples, and Isaiah West. So we got 5. We didn't get Turbo Rogers. Now, for defensive linemen, definitely we're going to hear from Caden McDonald, definitely Edric Houston, and we need some more Edric Houston. That's an entertaining dude. Logan George, transfer Logan George. We haven't heard from him yet. Interested in hearing what he's got to say. Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson for sure. Kenyatta Jackson thought to be the new leader of this defensive line, and really want to hear what he's sounding like, how he's feeling. But as far as the freshmen go, I would love to hear from Jarquez Carter. I would love to hear from Ziggy Grady. And I would also really like to hear from Jason Moore or Will Smith, one of those guys that we assume is going to be, next up in that 2 deep in the interior of the defensive line. So that'll be interesting. Then Wednesday, you got pro day. Then Thursday, practice number 6, another big day of interviews afterwards as we get to hear from James Laurinaitis. And then we get to hear from Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles. So we got 6 and 8. And then we get probably Riley Pettijohn and TJ Alford, as well as I would say Peyton Pierce. We'll probably hear from Peyton, and he's always great to listen to. So I can't wait to hear from those linebackers as well. Hopefully we can get JUCK Eli Lee too. Nobody gets so excited about that though, because he's just a Mike linebacker, and nobody gets all juiced up from a throwback Mike linebacker anymore. But I love the kid. I think he's been a hell of a player at some point. And on that same day, we get to hear from Keenan Bailey and the tight ends. So we'll definitely hear from Will Kazmarek, definitely Bennett Christian. We'll hear from Jelani. That'll be really interesting. And our first time hearing from Max Clare since he has transferred in. I imagine we'll probably hear from Nate Roberts too. And I don't want to leave out Max LeBlanc. We'll hear from Max LeBlanc as well. So all of those interviews coming up this week. That'll be really fun. Now, today, being that the guys are out at practice right now, and we've got not much to talk about what's going on there until the end of it, I figured we would jump into some of the big men recruiting, because we've got so many visits going on right now in spring practice, both the offensive and defensive line prospects. And, if we're going to talk about the 2 areas on the team where recruiting, we need the areas bolstered. We need the offensive and the defensive line bolstered by big classes in 2026. And we've got a whole lot of prospects on the board. A whole lot of them are going to be in the house from the start of last week to the end of spring, up into the spring game. So when we talk tomorrow, we'll talk about those post-game interviews that happened today, but let's get into these visitors on the line. Stocking this class with talented offensive linemen is the task that was given to Tyler Bowen by Ryan Day. That number is going to be at minimum 5, probably 6, maybe even 7 offensive linemen. Remember that former 85-man roster limit of scholarship athletes, but 120 total on your roster is now different. We're going into the era of 105 partial scholarship athletes. Means you no longer have to worry about those numbers like you used to. You can bring in more bodies at every single position if you want to. You're not going to at every position, but the ones you're going to, that's going to be the line. That's going to be the places where you want the most bodies at various stages of development throughout their time at Ohio State. So what this means is, when you used to have that borderline guy, and you would want that guy, if as a backup plan, right? I know it's rude to say it like that, but let's just say you got a guy as a backup plan. If you miss out on this guy, and this guy, then you want him. Well, you were rolling the dice because if you wanted that guy as your backup plan, some guys, if you waited too long, would say piss off. They'd get jaded, they'd go commit somewhere else, and you couldn't pull them back out of there. I mean, we got an example just last year of a kid. What the hell is that kid's name? I forget, man. He was a Massillon offensive lineman. You guys will remember. Massillon offensive lineman, and they sent him away. He goes, commits to Wisconsin, and shortly after, it's looking like, can we double back and talk to that dude? No, he was firmly in with Wisconsin. So that's the risk you ran back then under that 85-man limit. Well, now when you're in a situation like that, you can take that guy. You could take his commitment, because if you only planned on taking 6 to get in your number and you end up with 7, you're fine. You're fine to go over that limit. So I think that's a really big deal. It's a really big deal, particularly in Ohio, where we tend to have a lot of guys that right there hit that kind of cutoff for them at Ohio State. So I think it's a big deal for sure. Now, what we've seen so far from Tyler Bowen, not only casting a wider net, but he's developing more relationships with guys that are in that second and third tier option, instead of waiting until he misses out on his top options and then starting to try to work his way into a relationship with those guys like we've seen before. Now, as we get into some of these visitors, we've got some from 27 for sure. I don't want to get into them. I want to talk about the 26 guys because I don't want to just jumble this up and confuse anybody. There's enough 26 prospects to talk about. No prospect bigger in 2026 than the number 1 prospect, right? That's Jackson Cantwell. Jackson Cantwell came into Columbus over the weekend. It was his second time visiting Ohio State, but his first time with Tyler Bowen and Marcus Johnson and Charlie Dickey. And he will leave Ohio State and go up to Ann Arbor. And this is what we're seeing over and over again from prospects this cycle. As Michigan, like I said, is now in on so many more prospects. They're now recruiting like Ohio State, like Oregon, which is no longer like Penn State. They're now going after the best of the best at every position. And we are now seeing this cycle. I've seen so many guys who have, 2 visits up in the Midwest scheduled. They're going to see Ohio State. They're going to see Michigan, and they're doing it like in a back-to-back swing. Cantwell, same deal. And the truth is, Michigan recruiting with the money they're spending, they're going to be living in the top 10 in recruiting, just like Oregon, just like Ohio State, and potentially USC. Definitely USC will be this year. So we've now got 4 teams in the Big Ten that are recruiting with the best of the best in the country, which is going to be an interesting development as we see it unfold and see those rosters take shape in the next few years. But Jackson Cantwell comes into Columbus, not just the number 1 offensive lineman, number 1 player in the country. This year's David Sanders, 6'7.5", 305 pounds, one of the best shot putters in the country. Mom and dad were both Olympic shot putters, with dad winning the silver in 2008, which is pretty cool. This dude was born to be an offensive lineman, right? He's athletic. He's strong. He loves football. He is the perfect offensive tackle prospect. And again, this is his first time coming up to meet Tyler Bowen. Currently, he has 5 official visits. He's left Ohio State, with Ohio State being firmly in his top 6. The 5 official visits that are scheduled are Oregon, Missouri, and Georgia. Those 3 thought to be his leaders right now. Then he also has Michigan and Miami scheduled. Ohio State, he left without scheduling that visit, definitively the date, but he does say they're going to get an official visit. Steve Wiltfong got some comments from him afterwards, and he said that he was really pleasantly surprised by Ohio State. He loved the way they did reps. He loved the assistant coaches. He said that Ohio State said that he has a future and they could help him. Obviously, he said he had a good time and he enjoyed practice and learning from the OSU players that stood out to him. So that is that's the situation with Jackson Cantwell's visit. He leaves without scheduling an official he said it's tough with track, and it's tough with track and having 5 other officials already scheduled. So, being that this is our introduction to Tyler Bowen, it's his first year, and he's doing it in an abbreviated cycle. If he could pull off getting Jackson Cantwell, that would be wonderful. Ultimately, I don't think the Buckeyes end up with Jackson Cantwell for a couple of reasons. One, the abbreviated time period for Tyler Bowen. He's working with one hand behind his back here when these other schools have had a long time to create a relationship with the Cantwell family. And two, there is always at least one, usually multiple schools, now that we've got 3-4 years of data with this, that come into these recruitments with the mindset of we're not going to lose the financial battle. And that just drives up the price one off the other, one off the other. Here, a good example would be DeCorian Moore last year with Texas and Oregon, and Ohio State was in it. And they were somewhat competitive at one point, but Texas and Oregon kept driving each other up, and Ohio State stayed put. And eventually we're like, okay, we're going to go get a great wide receiver. It's probably not going to be this dude, but we're going to shoot our shot. And they did. But, in the end, the offer got just too far away from them. So that ultimately is the reason, those two reasons why I don't think the Buckeyes are going to land Jackson Cantwell. And to be honest, I think it's the right tactic when it comes to offensive line recruiting. What I'm looking for this class to be a smashing success are 3 high-level prospects and 3 high-ceiling developmental guys. And Tyler Bowen can do that. And if he does that, I think it's going to be very, very successful. When it comes to these top-tier number 1 offensive line types, the money that it costs now to bring these guys in really limits your budget elsewhere. If you are consistently bringing in large enough classes and doing good evaluations, then you can save that money and you can go supplement in the portal. And I think that's a much better strategy, not to be confused with what happened this year. This year, you were you had to go get those 2 tackles. You don't want to be in that position, but to be in the position where you can say, okay, I've got a lot of dudes, but you see this guy, he just played 4 games last year for North Dakota State. He looks really good. He's now in the transfer portal. He's not commanding top tier dollars. I think he'd fit really well in our room. Let's go get him. And I love it. I love it. You don't want to be in a position where you need to. You want to be in a position where you can, and you can supplement and you have the money to do it. And I think it's the much smarter approach. And when we look at this year, 3 high-level prospects, 3 developmental guys. Well, you already got Max Riley. That is 1 high-level prospect. I believe the Buckeyes lead for both Sam Greer out of Hoban and Champ Smith out of Vero Beach in Florida. That is 2 other high-level prospects. That's your 3 right there. And there are several more options out there that you are in on that meet that criteria. 3 developmental guys, more in that range. You've got Duron Parks, who is out of Sarasota, Florida. He's out of West Virginia. He just transferred to Sarasota, Florida. Been a Buckeye fan all his life. 6'5", 350, needs some conditioning, but he's got a lot of he's a talented kid and going to be a developmental guy. I think the Buckeyes can get him if they really push. You've got Aaron Thomas, who just came up and visit. You've got Deacon Schmidt, the kid from one of the Dakota or from Colorado. And it's several guys of that ilk that are around, and they can just, kind of decide who they want out of that category. And you've now got 6 dudes, 3 top guys, 3 prospect guys with high ceilings, and that's a win. You're also in on 5-star Felix Ojo, who, if the money doesn't get too crazy for him, and we'll see what happens there. Darius Gray, who to me is, if we're just talking like football player and not position value, because he's an interior guy and that positionally isn't worth as much, I think he's a top 10 football player in the whole class. He is the dude that came up in camp as a nobody to Ohio State and stonewalled Jakeem Stewart, the number 1 player in the country at that point, for 5 reps in a row. So I just love him. He's awesome. But I don't think the Bucs are going to end up getting him. At any rate, taking that money that you don't spend on the David Sanders or the Jackson Cantwell, and every single year keeping your eyes open on the portal is the much better situation to be in to me. So that's why I'm not too awfully concerned, and I'm not going to get myself wrapped up in Jackson Cantwell. And I really didn't with David Sanders either, other than the fact that at the David Sanders point, by the time he made that decision, like you were so far behind in numbers that it was just one more dude you missed out on, you know? So Micah Smith and Sam Greer were in town and they have been to spring practice, both of them already. I think Ohio State lands one of them for sure, if not both of them. You also had Brett College from IMG. That was his first visit up to Ohio State. And we watched his film last week. This is a kid who is very polished, loves football. I really like him. I don't think right now Ohio State's on the top of his board, but we'll see if something happens there. Deron Parks is the one we just discussed from West Virginia, transferred to Cardinal Mooney, but not our Cardinal Mooney in Youngstown. Sarasota, Florida's Cardinal Mooney. I didn't know they had one, so I got tricked when I first saw that he was transferring to Cardinal Mooney. But 6'5", 350. Got to get in shape. Loves Ohio State. I like him. You had Pete Iglesias, who is an Ohio kid, and he's not very highly ranked, but he's a kid who, you know, really got a lot of size. He's got some nastiness. We'll see. Someone to keep in the fold. Oliver Miller, same story. Another Ohio kid like that. Then you got Kelvin Obot the robot. And we watched his film. This is the kid out of Fruitland, Idaho, that was Tyler Bowen's second offer when he got here. A big time tackle. This would fall in the category of the Sam Greer, Max Riley, Micah Smith type of dude. This is a top ranked guy. He is coming in today for a couple of days. So we'll find out how that went for him. You got Zayden Krempin, who's an excellent lineman out of Texas. And that would be a huge win as well. This kid's got all the offers. He's just coming off a visit at LSU. He really likes Clemson. The Buckeyes got a lot of ground to make up here, but he's a really smart kid, and really smart kids could see what's going on here at Ohio State right now. Also this week, Tyler Bowen's first offer when he came to Ohio State, Evan Goodwin out of Arkansas. Goodwin, not rated the highest, but I think he's an absolute dog. I think his potential is through the roof. This is one of those top tiers to me. And there's a reason Tyler Bowen made him his very first offer. Then we got Matt Wilhelm's son, Mason Wilhelm. He will be in next week. A lot of people really want the St. Ed's interior lineman to get that Buckeye offer. Also, Landry Breedy is a tackle out of Mentor. And again, this is moving up to that 85 scholarship limit. Allows you to maybe add these Ohio 3-star kids that you otherwise might not have. And I'm not saying they might not have anyway, but it allows you a little more wiggle room when you want to bring one of those guys, because those guys have served the Ohio State offensive line over the years very, very well. So I would not be unhappy at all to bring in Mason Wilhelm or Landry Breedy. Now, in April, another visit from Darius Gray is coming, and Darius Gray, we just talked, that's the 5-star interior lineman. Don't think the Bucks are at the top of his board, as he's got a lot of momentum with a lot of other places, but he really likes Ohio State. And Tyler Bowen, Darius told me when Tyler Bowen got hired, he was at his basketball game the week prior. So there's a great relationship there. He was recruiting him at Virginia Tech. This is a kid down there around Virginia. He's in Virginia. Yeah, he's in Virginia. So that's where the relationship comes from. So a potential to make up some serious ground there. And I'm telling you, when it comes to interior offensive linemen, you can't find one better. I don't think we've seen one better in a couple of classes, to be honest. Then you got a 3-star named Cannon Smith. This is a kid that, despite his ranking, all the big offers, SC, Bama, Penn State, Michigan. And then we get Sam Rosenberg. And this one counts as a big-time prospect. This is a top 10 tackle in the class, 6'5", 260. Don't feel a ton of movement there yet, but let's hope that Tyler Bowen can change that. And, of course, Felix Ojo also coming in middle of April. And Felix Ojo is the 5-star out of Texas that Texas would be number 1 right now. And if anybody is firmly in that number 2 for him, it's Ohio State. Now, if I was predicting today, as far as guys who are going to be in this class, I think that Micah Smith and Sam Greer are going to eventually join Max Riley in this class. And that's your 3 upper echelon guys. If you can get one more of those upper echelon guys, if it can be a Felix Ojo or a Kelvin Obot or an Evan Goodwin, who to me is one of those upper echelon guys, you're absolutely winning. And then you can get your 3 developmental dudes, no problem. Now, Aaron Thomas, one of my favorites as far as guys that have a really high ceiling. He was just in over the weekend. That's the one. So Aaron told me he's from Phoenix, right? He's got visits scheduled with Arkansas, Minnesota, Washington, and Texas A&M, which tells us he's willing to go anywhere. And his grandmother and in half of his family, he said, is from Cleveland. Grandma's a huge Buckeye fan, and this offer meant a ton to him. So he is a 3-star, top 500 player in the country, but he got that ranking off of just 1 year playing offensive line. He's from the defensive line. So he moves over. He's got the measurables at 6'6", 300. He's clearly raw on the film, but he's nasty. And I think he's going to continue to climb up those rankings. I think he's a prospect that would be excellent in this class. And as far as like developmental with high upside, this is the dude. So talked to him about his visit, said he loved it, loved all the coaches. Going to Texas A&M tomorrow. Like I said, Arkansas, Washington, Wisconsin, or Minnesota still left. But he said that he's going to make his decision by June. And that is huge. Now, Texas A&M doesn't make me feel great. Jermaine Kinsler was a defensive lineman that I thought the Buckeyes were in really good standing with. Texas A&M makes him a sweetheart of a deal. And just like that, kid out of Bergen Catholic, Quincy Porter's high school, Jordan Thomas's high school, is gone off the board because Texas A&M, they will throw that money around like no other. And that dude was a hell of a prospect at 6'7", 280. So Aaron Thomas will go down and see them. We'll find out how that goes. But ultimately, I think the Buckeyes are in the lead right now for Aaron Thomas if they want to be. And I think they want to be. Now, let's move to the defensive side of the ball. A little bit of a different story. So when we talk about the defensive line recruiting, a quick recap of the past two classes. When we talk about the past two classes in 2024, you got Edric Houston, your huge headliner that everybody wanted, 5-star home run. Then you are able to flip Painesville's Dominic Kirks, a 3-star top 300 kid who was committed to Washington. And then you bring in Eric Mensah, who was more of, we need a number, right? But he's turning out to look pretty good, I think. So not a bad evaluation there. Then in 25, you got the numbers, but you didn't get the big time headliner. And not the big time headliner you've become accustomed to with Larry Johnson. The guy that's, for sure going to be that stud. Now, I think it's an underrated group myself. You got Ziggy Grady, who was a top 100 kid, barely. A lot of people really high on him. But it is Jarquez Carter, who I'm really high on. Not that I'm not high on Ziggy Grady. I'm high on him as well. But Jarquez Carter, I think, is the real impact guy out of this group. And Epi Satanile, who was committed to UCLA, that Larry was able to flip at the end there, I think he has one heck of an upside as well. You also bring in Max Roy, who is a legendary wrestler, and like his teammate and best friend, Isaiah West, an unbelievable worker with like I said, legendary wrestling career in the state of Pennsylvania, and just one of those hardworking dudes who I honestly look at this kid and I just see this is Ty Hamilton in 3 years. I don't think we'll see much of him anytime soon, but the type of program guy like Ty Hamilton was, it's just going to work and work and work. And before you know it, he's going to be a massive starter that makes an impact. Then you got Trajan Odom. And Trajan Odom, you beat Oregon, you beat SC for him. He was a pretty sought after recruit. And another kid out of Weddington in North Carolina, which is the school Larry is trying to pull the number 2 or 3 defensive lineman in the country, Aiden Harris, out of right now. So really good evaluations in the class of 2025 on the defensive line, in my opinion. And when we look forward to 2026, you've got some of those headliners, some of those big name dudes. Can you get one? Luke Waffle, he was just in town and he qualifies as one of those big time dudes. Top 10 edge rusher by everybody. He's a 5-star top 5 edge rusher at on 3. And he is a madman in the Jack Sawyer mold. It's unavoidable to compare this kid to Jack Sawyer. He looks like him. He talks like him. He's got a 20-inch neck like him. Physically, 6'5.5", 250. It's just, it's impossible not to make the comparison. Clearly loves the weight room. He's already jacked at a young age. His film is fantastic. He's a good basketball player, just like Jack. got a quick first step, already uses his hands in a really good way. He's aggressive, great motor. He's just a dude, man, just an absolute dude. So Luke comes into town last week. His brother started off at Michigan, now goes to Penn State, and he said the visit was really good. So Luke comes into town last week and tells On3 the visit was really good. It was a great experience. His favorite thing was definitely the people. They're really great people who just love football. And the fact that that resonates with him, I really love. But his older brother started off at Michigan, then transferred to Penn State. Penn State thought to be the leader, and that's going to be tough to beat. You know, it's like Blaine Bradford. We talk about the top safety, Blaine Bradford, who goes to an LSU feeder school, and his brother is at LSU. I mean, that's just tough to beat. Who doesn't want to go play with their brother? But this is a big time recruitment. It's going to be a war. He is going to see Nebraska, Oklahoma, USC, Texas, Penn State. He's been to Michigan, Oregon, Wisconsin. Luke Wafel is a sought after dude for sure. But I think the Buckeyes really want him. And I think they made a heck of an impression on him in this particular visit. So we will see when this gets narrowed down about Luke. Jake Krull is a big personality. He came up with the IMG contingent. He posted his visit on Instagram, and he is a kid with a big personality, 6'3", 230. He just won the MVP at the Miami Under Armour camp, which is a camp loaded with stars. 5-star kid by some services. He's a stud edge rusher, a stud. Gets it done in a lot of different ways. Really good athlete, really polished with his hands. Ultimately, this guy's in on so many schools right now. I have no idea where Ohio State stands or what his top 5 would even be right now. 44 offers. He's been getting them forever, and he seems to be having a whole lot of fun with it. So what I would love to see is, he said he talked to Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia got involved in this. Tony Washington as well. I want to see what Tony Washington is bringing on the recruiting part of this. I was really excited to get him in, and I'm anxious to hear some of these guys start to talk about Tony Washington Jr. This week, Carter Meadows comes in. Carter Meadows is a 5-star dog, the number 2 edge rusher in the country. This kid is 6'6.5", 225, 35-inch arms and big hands, explosive first step, long, disruptive, flexible, got the bend you're looking for. This is a dangerous kid, man. He's a hooper. I mean, he's perfect. And mostly a Midwest recruitment right now. Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. This is a big visit for Carter Meadows here. And this would be definitely one of your upper echelon big dogs. So for those big dog guys you're in on, you've got Carter Meadows and Luke Wafel or Wafel. You've got Aiden Harris. You've got Luke Krull, and Deuce Gerald's is not quite rated with those guys, but Deuce Gerald's to me is as good as one of those guys, and I think can make just as much of an impact. Then you've got Cantwell Webb. He's coming up. He is Deuce Gerald's teammate in Sewanee, Georgia at I think Collins Hill High School. 6'3", 235, 3-star kid, top 500. Watched his film, liked the way he plays. Definitely needs a couple years of development. And like I said, Deuce Gerald's teammate. Deuce is an absolute tank. But imagine 2 Ohio State linemen on one high school football team, which is crazy. We don't need to imagine that hard. We can look back at Weddington High School last year. Trajan Odom, our Ohio State freshman, played on that line with the Harris twins, who could potentially both end up at Ohio State, which would be pretty damn awesome. That line, looking back, would have had 3 Ohio State defensive linemen on a high school defensive line, which is just crazy. And Deuce Gerald's, of course, we've talked about him plenty. 6'2", 265, top 50-ish type of guy in the composite. He would be a little bit higher if he was a little bit taller. When the dead period was up, one of the first places Ryan Day went was to go to Collins Hill High School and see Deuce Gerald's. Larry's had a relationship with him since he was in 8th grade. He loves Ohio State. I think the Buckeyes are firmly in his top 3, and I would consider it a big disappointment if Ohio State did not win out in the long run for Deuce Gerald's. Then you got Cameron Brickle from IMG. He's coming in. This kid's 6'2", 300 pounds, a true nose tackle. He did come from Philly. He took his first visit to Ohio State in 2023, so he's very familiar with the program. Not very highly rated, a 3-star, top 500 type of kid. But man, when I say he's got all the offers, he's got them all. Every big offer you could imagine, this kid's got it. So pretty exciting right there. His film shows a total run stuffer in the middle. He's a nose tackle extraordinaire, pushes the pile back, and he's a hand. He's a handle. He's tough to handle. Then you got Damari Simeon, who is a guy I think is on the rise big time. Top 200 kid right now and rising at 6'3", 275, a New Jersey kid. And we watched this film not too long ago. He's excellent. Very underrated, explosive athlete, finishes well. I want him in the class big time. So Damari Simeon, definitely one of the big dogs here coming in to visit. And that'll do it. That's what's scheduled now for our visits. And of those visits, the biggest ones, Luke Weifel, Deuce Geralds, Carter Meadows, Jake Krull, who I think is up there talent-wise. I just am not so sure. I'm not optimistic. I'm not too optimistic about Jake. But the other ones, I feel like there's a lot of positive momentum. Another one to look out for, Cam Brooks. Obviously, Cam Brooks is a stud that the Buckeyes are in on out of Thomasville, Georgia. He is a top 200 kid. He's an edge rusher, 6'2", 2.5, 250 pounds. He has an official visit scheduled. His other officials, Miami, Cal, Florida State, and Clemson. And Cam Brooks right now, I think the Buckeyes are firmly in the top 3 for him. So that would be a pretty big time get right there. Then Bryce Perry Wright out of Buford in Georgia. There was a lot of positive momentum there. I think that's died off. He's a top 100 kid, and that's a bummer. I think he's going to end up staying down south. You've also got Carter Lucky, another kid out of Georgia, top 300 kid, 6'5", 265, and another guy, some pretty positive vibes going on with him. And at IMG, also Preston Carey, who is another top 300 kid, some momentum going on right there. So a ton of guys that the Bucks are in on both offensive and defensive lines that coming in to visit or have visited. And I think that things are looking really well. Oh, don't want to forget Xavier Griffin-Haynes. Xavier Griffin-Haynes we've talked about forever. He committed to North Carolina when he had an Ohio State offer because he wanted to commit. Ohio State wasn't quite ready to take that commitment. Don't know why. At 6'6", 235 pounds, the dude's film is legit. He's long. He's got the body. I'd have just rather they took it right then. Now he has since decommitted from UNC, and he is now doing the whole circuit because everybody wants him. But Buck's got a good relationship with him. He really loves Ohio State. Now, that's it for our visitors and for recruiting. Today, I did want to say, everybody remembers the Nebraska game. Josh Simmons had gone down in the Oregon game, and in the Nebraska game, instead of doing what they ultimately ended up doing, which is a little more disruptive, right, to move Donovan Jackson over to tackle, they rolled out Zen Michalski. And I was traveling that day. I was actually down here, and I was traveling home. In the airport, I saw the first half end, boarded the plane, took off. So I didn't know what happened. I'm in the air wondering what the heck's going on with the game. I land, get the recap, and luckily the Bucks end up pulling it out. So I get home and I watch this thing, and Zen Michalski was just like, I could not believe that this was the best option you had at Ohio State. And I was just like, not hating on Zen. You can only be as good as you can be, right? Like, it's not his fault. Tried his best. But the fact that Ohio State's offensive line was in that situation, that was the next man up, was so concerning to me at the time. I also thought it was just the wrong move. I thought moving Donovan was the better move, but I understood, let's give him a chance first before we go shift all these pieces. It made sense for sure, but a little alarming that was the best move. Anyway, as we know, Zen Michalski has transferred out. He was not an Ohio State caliber tackle, and that's okay. That's fine. So he transfers over to Indiana. Indiana also got Fernando Mendoza this year. Fernando Mendoza, Cal's quarterback, who Devin Brown transferred to Cal to take his place. But we're talking about a top quarterback in the transfer portal. And ESPN just wrote a piece this week that I just saw yesterday, and they predicted the top breakout player from each school. And for Indiana, they did not choose Fernando Mendoza. They chose Zen Mahalski. Sometimes people try to be the smartest guy in the room. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they looked and saw this guy transferred from Ohio State. Oh, he must be good. And they chose Zen Mahalski as their breakout player of the year, which that would be really something if that happened. I kind of hope it does for the kid. So I caught a whole lot of flack from the Georgia set about my comment that Georgia clearly in decline. And to clarify, what I meant by that was I don't think Georgia is going to fall out of the top 10. I don't think they're going to fall out of the top 5. I don't think Georgia is the best program in college football anymore. And I think that we have seen enough evidence that we can kind of put that together and line that up and say, like, it is so hard to be the best program in college football. We're talking about a program last year that struggled to beat Mississippi State. Their coach pushed a player out of frustration, struggled to beat Kentucky, got their doors blown off and quit against Ole Miss, got embarrassed in the first half by Alabama, got knocked out of the playoffs and out physicaled by Notre Dame. You got a coach right now talking about players he doesn't even recognize anymore. The quarterback last year came in as the Heisman frontrunner and was supposed to be the top NFL draft pick. He's not even with the team this year, and he sure as heck didn't get it to the NFL. Then you add in the arrest after arrest after arrest. Kirby sticking with Mike Bobo, the horrible offensive coordinator, because he's been a family friend for 50 years. And it just seems to me that when you've got all of those things, no, you might not see it all at once go downhill. But when you add all that up, there's no way that with all that stuff going on, you're going to walk in this year and just maintain the excellence. They haven't been maintaining the excellence. They weren't excellent last year. And this year, I think it dips further down. Now, talent can hide a lot. Talent can make up for a ton. But ultimately, Kirby Smart, a great coach, one of the top 3 coaches in football, a great program builder, also a guy with one of the better advantages in the country when it comes to recruiting. Let's not forget that. This is a guy with a huge advantage here. But right now, I think that program is in a bit of a decline, and I think we will see that manifest on the field. So they got salty with that. When we look at these two programs, Ohio State and Georgia, Ohio State is in better shape, man. It's not even debatable anymore. Number one, they just won the national championship, not Georgia. Georgia didn't win it the year before either. And now, when we talk about Ryan Day, we can go back and look at this man's 6-year career. And now, instead of talking about all the near misses as bad things, they now become accolades because now he's won a national championship. So instead of talking about the playoff losses and the misses, now it's Ryan Day, national champion 6 years in with 4 total playoff appearances. Now we don't look back at the lost national championship in 2020 and say, oh, he got blown out in the national championship. You don't look back at the near misses against Georgia and Clemson and just add these up as like somewhat negative things or near misses. Now, this is a man with 2 Big Ten championships, 4 playoff appearances, 2 national championship game appearances, 1 national championship, and the highest winning percentage since Knute Rockne in 6 years. Like, now you get to say all of this in totality because he is a national champion. He should have had an opportunity to play LSU in the national championship game in 2019. He should have had an opportunity to win the national championship in 2022. Didn't get those done. Maybe a little help from the officials here or there. But the bottom line is, when you look at what he's done in 6 years and where his program is situated right now, he's the best coach in college football. He has the best program in college football. And if anyone's logic is so simple that it is Kirby 2, Ryan Day 1, then they damn well better have Dabo Swinney at number 2 because he's got 2 championships. So nuance to every discussion. But my point right now, and just like the people that are coming at me, by the way, the same people that were coming at me last year when I was saying early in the spring, Ohio State had the best roster and should be the absolute odds-on favorite to win the national championship, telling me it was a ridiculous take. I mean, Ohio State fans telling me that. Same people coming at me now telling me it's ridiculous to say that Ryan Day and Ohio State are the number 1 right now, and they are. And that will turn out to be true, just like Ohio State having the best roster and being the national championship favorite heading into 25-24 was true as well. So that's all I got today from vacation. I appreciate you guys. We'll talk about what happened at practice tomorrow, and I will see you then. Jug and Bucks out.